Welcome to Beyond the Circus. This is Dale Hummel, along with co-star Ryan Rash.
Hello, people. Go out and vote for Trump!
Twice.
That's illegal, Dale.
No, I know the Democrats do it all the time.
Oh, no. Here we go again.
I actually had this conversation with our producer, Clifton, that maybe he could get his children to vote, or at least have his wife get his children to vote by mail.
Why are your liberal tendencies always showing up when we're doing the political podcast? Because you and your Democratic friends want to lower the voting age to 16. So there you go.
No, I'm not lowering the voting age. I'm doing anything and everything possible to make sure this election goes the right direction, and I will explain why later.
Oh, imagine that. Because you're very, very against giving your philosophies and opinions on all things live.
I'm okay with it.
Okay. Well, do you want to talk about the debate first, since that's kind of what people want to listen about?
Yes, absolutely, and I'm good with this last debate.
I thought the last debate
that summarizes it for me.
Concise and to the point. I thought the last debate was brilliant. I thought the moderator did a fine job by far and away. No. Yes, she did a fine job.
She was better than Chris Wallace. That's as far as I can go.
She was the best debate moderator for a presidential debate in the last two election cycles.
I don't know.
Period.
That's comparing her to a very low group. I don't think she did a great job.
This is like a class of calves at a county fair. There may not be a great one out there, but you still got to use the best one.
She may have been, and she kept control. I think the mute button probably helped. And did you see?
She did not have control of the mute button.
No, but I think that kept them in check. Did they not get muted right at that 2 minute just for a second or two, and then they let it up?
After they got to give their little 2 minute spill on the 6 different topics, the mute button was gone. That's it.
Got it. I didn't know. Did they press it for a couple seconds or no? Did they not use it at all?
No, they did not use it all.
Okay. I for some reason, I thought the microphone went mute just briefly there at that 2 minute stage, like a warning, like you need to stop. But I was probably mistaken.
I mean, this is how decent the moderator was. Trump is bragging about her. So there you go.
I still think her questions and her ability to give Joe a chance to jump back in, other than the big drop oil question, she kind of hung him out to dry. Why, Joe? Why? Why?
No, you should have seen her face.
Good.
Then she was like, why did you say that?
Yeah.
Like
that was the best. I could watch that over and over again.
I don't remember all the topics. I know COVID was discussed, and at first I thought that was kind of like nobody won. I mean, Trump did his thing. Biden talked about how everybody's dead and going to die, and that we're going into a dark winter. And I mean, it was basically Trump is optimistic, Joe is pessimistic. And I think a lot of how you're going to take that or respond to that is going to directly correlate to how you have been affected by the Rona. If you've had a family member or a close friend die, you're probably going to be a little more sensitive. If your business has been shut down and you're pissed off, you're probably going to be like Trump and, want it opened up and return to normalcy. So I thought that was pretty much a draw, because I don't think anything they said is going to change somebody's opinion on that.
No, I think you're exactly right. And it's human nature is going to dictate how you fall on that. And exactly what you're saying, what I've not seen, and I don't think you can put a number on it, I would really like to see the numbers on how many people it touched personally in a very painful manner. And I'm not trying to make light of that from a standpoint of hospitalization or a death or even being very sick at home for a couple of weeks, versus the number of people that are almost economically destroyed from it or on the verge. And no matter where you were, blue or red, prior to that, I do think that's going to flip a lot of people because of that in itself. So there's so many wild cards going into this election. It's unpredictable.
Well, lots of things irritate me about your brother, Joe Biden, but he's like, I don't see them as blue states and red states. I see Americans. Say, what the fuck ever, old man? Okay. Really, dude? There is no doubt that the Democratic-run states have botched this considerably more than the Republican red states. You can look at it almost in every statistic, from the economy to death rates to hospitalizations, whatever. They have done a worse job. Now that's facts.
No, I agree.
And see, that's the thing that I get angry about is like when there are facts that disprove what this old goat is saying, and he's just yakking away. But yeah, no,
And this old goat keeps coming out saying that he can stop COVID and yet he can open everything up safely. I don't know what this is. He keeps saying he has a plan to do this, but there isn't. This is a virus.
The mask mandate, the national mask mandate is going to change everything.
I think in all reality, you're going to have a mask mandate and you're going to have lockdowns like we see in Canada and Europe that have not worked. It postpones the numbers, which keeps the virus in the environment longer, which gives it longer to expose those that have secondary issues and are more susceptible, period. And we will talk about herd immunity again someday. Do you know, Ryan, what is his plan for COVID? Is it that mask? That's it? That's his master plan?
The latest thing is a mask mandate. And I mean, Trump's never going to put in a mask mandate because we all know Trump don't like masks.
Can he put a national mask mandate in? I don't know that it's even possible.
No.
It's up to the states unless we're at a martial law.
He's plainly stated it a lot.
Yeah, I've heard it. I don't know that he thinks. I don't know that it bothers me.
I don't know if he knows what day of the week it is, but I'm telling you, he thinks he can make a mask mandate. But
did you hear who he was running against here a couple days ago?
George Bush.
Twice, wasn't it?
Yep, it was twice. It was great. And if you could have seen his wife's face.
Oh, it was the best.
And he was saying George.
Best. Oh.
I mean, like, she wanted to bitch slap him so hard, right?
Give our listeners a little background, just in case they didn't see this. You need to play it out for them.
He was having some kind of virtual nonsense bullshit. I don't know if it was a rally or a fundraiser or what, but anyway, him and his wife were sitting there and they're talking about that this is the most pivotal, vital, crucial election in the history of the world. And I am not saying that it is not, people, but do y'all know how tired I am of hearing that shit? Like, literally.
I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it again.
5,000 times a day on Fox News. They lead every segment. I mean, a man might have died in an Antarctica in a cave, and they lead with, "This is the most crucial, pivotal election in America. By the way, an Eskimo froze to death in Antarctica today." Oh, it's a lot. So they're sitting there doing that, and he's talking about, and it's not just because that I'm running, it's who I'm running against. And then he starts talking about he's running against George, and he says George is named twice. And then I think he figures it out, or she elbows him, and so he starts mumbling some stuff. And he says, "Well, if Trump wins..."
Yeah, something about 4 more years of George.
4 more years of George, and then he said George has referenced George again, and then I think he kind of got some clarity. I personally think she elbowed him in the ribs, and
she just had that expression. I'm like, "Oh, you've got to be kidding me."
Yeah, her look was classic. It's kind of like the debate moderator when she asked, "Why did you just say you're going to phase out of the oil industry?" But, so yeah, that was that. And so again, he's a little loopy, but.
So Ryan, does the average public, this is hard for me to accept, does the average public just ignore his cognitive issues and weakness and all the things that are so apparent? How are they missing this? Is the media covering up enough? You don't blame the public?
We will not know that until the election results come in, because the media will not cover it. Well, I mean, literally the hardest question they ask him is what flavor of ice cream he likes. And of course, he didn't even have an answer for that, people. He did not even have an answer for that. He said that he got chocolate and vanilla so he could cover all his bases. Oh, but anyway. So I don't think we'll know till the election results come in, because there's no polling on it whatsoever, which if the situations were, and again, I'm not a big poll person other than stripper polls, but these election polls, no, not so much. But if the situation was reversed, they would have polling about, does America think Trump has cognitive difficulties, all this stuff. There's been none of that for Joe Biden, which is fine. So I do not think we will know that answer until the election results come in. And if Joe wins by a commanding amount, I mean, if it's close, either way, I think that's going to be a big part of it. Is they just don't know if he's, fit, capable, etc. But if he has a commanding and resounding win, then no, the American public did not. They didn't pay attention to it. They thought it was fine. They accepted it as part of him. And, when this was really bad, when he was having a campaign every day during the primaries, that is what his surrogates and his campaign people kept saying. This is just part of Joe. He makes gaffes. This is why everyone loves Joe. Joe. I am also so sick of Joe. If I don't ever hear that motherfucking line again, I'll be all right too. But it was in the primaries, and he was so bad. That was it. That's just part of him and part of his charm. So I do not think we will know. The jury is out on that until the election results.
I would agree on that. And it's difficult for me to put myself in the shoes of somebody that maybe is not following the election. I visit with some of our employees on occasion and just random people. And if they're not following like you and I are, Ryan, and many people out there, it's not maybe being picked up like you and I would assume. You would almost have to just eliminate yourself from the news or
you would have to have a media blackout of some kind or a social media blackout to not have any clue that he has some cognitive fuck ups.
You would agree. And I think part of the cover up is and part of the, I guess we were talking about Trump the last month, maybe not being on the same track and not pushing the same thing. There's so many things that I think we're going to have screwed up in the Biden-Harris administration if they get in. Trump's got a dozen different things that, in my opinion, are huge wins. And where do you start? Do you start with let's keep the tax cuts in place. Let's keep our borders safe. You could go on and on. I don't know how he could even stay on one particular area because there's so many. It's hard for me to imagine. I hope the American public is not as ignorant as this election may show them to be.
And again, we're kind of drifting in and out of the debate coverage and just the election coverage, and that's because Dale can't stay focused at all times. But talking about
Agreed.
That, I think one of his things that he is very, very strong at that nobody thought Trump was going to be very strong at, and it kind of leads into the second debate topic, is national security. And everyone said that we were going to be at war with 900 countries and all this other stuff if Trump won. I am going to go out, and I can't believe that I am saying this and Trump has not said this himself. But in terms of foreign policy and national security, I think Trump has been the most successful president in the history in modern times, except for maybe Ronald Reagan, who got us out of the Cold War.
I could not agree more with that statement.
And nobody talks about that.
No, I have. You're the first person that just comes out and states it as is, and I put him there close to where Reagan is.
Like I said, that's the only reason is because he did get us out of the Cold War, which I don't even know what the Cold War was. I know we got out of it because of Reagan, but I mean,
it has a lot to do with nuclear buildup.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? But I know that was a big deal, and so. If you look at the fact that he has eased tensions, everybody jokes about North Korea and Kim Jong-un. He's not testing nuclear missiles anymore. I'm not saying that that's not ever going to be a threat, but he's not doing the testing. He has made great strides in the Middle East. He just got another country this past week to sign in to those peace agreements that he's had to further isolate Israel and bring them to the table. Russia and us really haven't had many major squabbles. It's been about as good as it can be. It's never going to be perfect. Obviously, we were doing good with China. Now, not so much.
No, I think the China virus maybe took us backwards. But prior to that China trade deal,
the China trade deal was good, and everything was going along fine. And then they let out their damn plague, and I will say this for old Trump. If he does win, I think he's going to make the China pay big. I don't know what he's going to do.
Do you think that he accomplished a lot in his first term? If he wins this, he's not worried about getting reelected. Not that he was overly worried this time, but he's going to go further. He's going to tell it how it is. It's going to be amazing. Brian, with this debate topic, how is it possible that the media comes in and Sleepy Joe himself talking about the Russian disinformation and who do you think Iran, China, and Russia would like as our next president?
China definitely wants Biden to be the president. They own his ass.
I think that if Biden comes in, all of a sudden they're not concerned about anything. They can kind of take back everything they had at one time and continue to walk all over us, financially destroy us from within. It's there's no question on the surface. Oh, it might look like everything's calm and great, but they're completely taking over everything that we've tried to build up.
China does want Biden to win, and again, you stated this to me months and months ago, and I asked you where the proof was, and you couldn't find any. I still don't think there is any. And I told you then, and I will say this now, and this is going to be on the radio, and people are going to go whatever. But I honestly think that there is a more than likely chance at some point we will find out that China released this virus to try to get, maybe not just solely get Trump out of office, but to cause all the problems in America, election, economy, all this other stuff, because we are basically at war with China on who is the most dominant nation in the world. People don't realize that, but that's the truth.
No, that's the honest truth. We don't like to think about it because it's frightening. But that is an absolute accurate statement, Ryan, and it sounds conspiracy theory way out there. But we were in a position with Trump going the direction he did. If you give him another 4 years, he was going to take the manufacturing. China was in trouble, period. They were put in a position where they really had no choice. And I'm not saying they absolutely did it, but there are a lot of reasons for them to want to do and want this virus to be released, not only on us, on the world, to bring everything back to an even playing field because they were getting destroyed.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not saying that they only sent it to the U.S. or anything like that, but they wanted everybody crippled. But I'm telling you, they knew that was something that would keep them in play on terms of who was in this race to be the most dominant country in the world. And I mean, again, I may be proven wrong, and that's fine. That's just my opinion. And I think it will be years before that comes. Hell, it took us $40-something million in 3 years to prove that Trump didn't collude with Russia. So, I mean, it's going to be a bit. But just remember one day, if that does come out, the gay said so on the Tuesday before the election of 2020.
And people are going to think that we're crazy on this one, Ryan. I don't get too emotionally involved in making decisions. It's more about facts and figures, and there's too many arrows pointing that direction for that not to be a consideration. That simple.
You asked about, do I think Russia and Iran, what they want? I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if Russia is pulling for either one of them. If you read or watch, I do think Putin and Trump have a very good relationship because there's a mutual respect for those two people. I don't know if there's a whole lot of love, but they both are like, I'm a badass, don't mess with me type deal. So they respect each other. If Biden wins, there will be no respect. And you see how Putin works. I mean, he has literally done all this dirty, shady shit to keep him as the top diplomat in Russia, even though he can't run for re-election again. He still gets to stay in there and do it coming up. I don't think he necessarily wants Trump out. I also don't think that he would be upset greatly if Biden won. I mean, I think the respect level that he has for Trump makes me think that he's okay with him being president again. Because it's only 4 more years to where he's secured himself at least another 16, I think, in Russia. So there you go.
I agree with what you're saying. I think that his goal is for the U.S. to be as divided as possible, just like we are. So I think they're going to foster as much of that as they can. But when it comes down to it, I agree there's a mutual respect there. But I think when you look at Biden and Harris, I am sure that he would much rather have to deal with them if he's trying to take advantage of anything that he possibly can from the United States or stand up to the United States But yeah, not as much as what China is. And I think their main goal, and you hear it all the time, they want disruption in the United States. They want divided, blue, red, everything they can do, just chaos is what they would prefer. And I think they've done well with it. I'm not saying they did it themselves, but they've encouraged it.
The level of encouragement is high there, and it is working. And that's a topic for another time, and I'm going to be on it, but I'm just going to put it out there. I think everybody is sitting here worried, if Trump wins, there's going to be rioting, looting, and all this stuff. I'm not so sure that it couldn't be just as bad the other way if he loses.
We have not seen that misbehavior on the conservative side, but this is a big one.
I'm just saying, and again, like everybody laughs at social media and those memes and all that stuff I put on Snapchat. I've seen lots of them over the past couple of months. Just remember which side has the guns. And so I'm just putting that out there. But so I don't know. I do, in terms of the debate, they were talking about national security. And then, of course, Trump had to bring up your nephew's laptop, Hunter. I mean, first off, let me say this, because then I'm going to get pretty nasty on this kid. My brother had a terrible drug addiction that it cost him his life. And so while I have some empathy for this family that they have been through this with him, this boy is the biggest fucking train wreck in the history of political families and dynasties.
And he's been able to get away with it so far.
I mean, and we haven't even seen everything that's on that laptop yet, but for Joe to claim that it's Russia disinformation is just the biggest line of bullshit I have ever seen. That campaign, Joe nor Hunter, no one from there has denied that it is his laptop, that those emails are valid, that everything on that hard drive is not his. It is Homeboy's computer. All of that stuff on there is his.
No question.
Now, where Dale and I will throw down over this, but that's okay. All of that is Hunter's. Nothing that has come out so far, and granted, only Fox News and one New York paper covering this story, nothing so far has directly linked Joe to all this. There have been hints,
disagree.
Innuendos. I realize you do, sir, but you would be wrong, and that's okay. We'll let you give me your point in a minute. There have been hints and innuendos. There are no hardcore factual evidence that Joe has been linked to this yet. I fully believe he is aware and knows and was involved in it. There has been no evidence, is what I'm saying.
Has Sleepy Joe denied even discussing any business relations outside the
Sleepy
country?
Joe has stated multiple times that he never discussed business Hunter's business dealings.
Okay, is he guilty of lying about that?
Again, we do not have.
Is he guilty? Do you not think he hasn't discussed this with Hunter? Have you lost your mind?
I absolutely think he does, Dale, but there's no evidence to back up that claim yet. That's what I'm saying.
Who would you say in the emails that have been disclosed, who do you think the big guy is?
I absolutely think it's Joe Biden. Can you prove it? No, you
I think
can't.
common sense comes into play here. Read a few more.
Common sense does not matter right now. I believe it's him. I think he's dirty. I think he's worse than Hillary. But here's the thing. There has been no evidence that directly links Joe to this. And until there is...
Okay, well, there's evidence that links Hunter to it, no question, right? Obviously.
Hunter's a fucking train wreck. Biggest
so
train wreck.
Can we not just take this standpoint that Hunter has completely used his father's vice presidential position
He admitted to it on national TV in an interview.
Yes.
They asked him, do you think you would be on this board, Burisma board, if you weren't the vice president? Nope. I mean,
is that not enough to cause issues?
Oh, I think it'll cause issues for sure. And I think, he left this laptop, and if this boy is dumb enough to record him smoking crack pipes and doing all this other stuff that's supposedly on there that we haven't seen, and have all these emails and like send out emails saying that he's the, I mean, and like one of the emails they were bickering over how much percentage everyone will get. And, Hunter replies that he is the deal and it's his family's legacy that's, getting this deal done. So he's going to need more or he'll go somewhere else. Yeah, he is damaged goods. And the fact that he can not only, those would be conversations that you only had in person and had no paper trail of. Evidently, he doesn't realize that. Secondly, he goes to...
Time out. You would make the best vice president's corrupt son there is. You would do things right so you wouldn't get caught.
Oh, absolutely.
You would be the best.
I would be... I'm done. Oh. I don't even keep text messages on my phone after a day because
they're gone.
I delete. Yeah. I am the gay version of Hillary. Delete. But anyway.
I think you should. What about the snaps are gone in theory? Or they recorded some?
They're only 24 hours, but I mean,
they're not compiled. They're not.
Oh, I'm sure they are, but
yeah.
My snaps are not of me. They're memes. I mean,
good point.
I do not. When I do deranged, stupid stuff, I normally don't put that out there for the world to see.
Occasionally, late in the evening, maybe at a bar or strip club or maybe.
Yeah, but I'm not the one doing it just because I went there to watch people. Okay. I wasn't the one butt naked up on the pole. Okay,
you're going the wrong. You lost your direction here. Get back on track here.
You were the one asking me anyway. And I think the biggest challenge for Biden, if he wins, is if Hunter's got this shit on this laptop and is stupid enough in a crack-induced haste, take it to some local stop and rob computer repair service and forget that he left it there to pick it up and pay for it. You do realize that the amount of intelligence and spying that these countries do is massive. So God knows what they actually have on this kid that he doesn't even know about.
Oh, I don't think we even comprehend the amount
that they can use to...
Oh, painful.
Against Joe.
And that goes both directions. We're spying on everything as well.
Yeah, no, I realize that, but Hunter has compromised Joe no matter what.
Agreed.
That's a fact.
Was there not an email that talks about 10% going to the big guy?
Yes, there was. There is an email. But again, it doesn't say the big guy is Joe Biden.
Are you kidding me?
It doesn't say the big guy is Joe Biden. I fully believe the big guy is Joe Biden. There's a difference here. You have to have facts.
Not in my world.
Well, there you go. But you have to have...
Common sense prevails.
Facts. And so, yeah. But I think that the fact that they're trying to pass this off as Russia disinformation is just...
It's laughable.
Yeah, it's something. The reason this story is lingering, and I mean, again, it's not getting hardly any traction, but the reason it's lingering is because none of them have come out and says, that's not Hunter's laptop, that's not Hunter's emails, that's not him smoking crack on the photos. None of them are saying it's not it. Russia did it. Okay, whatever.
And first off, they're not getting asked the direct question. And secondly, he just throws out, if even something approaches that, Russian disinformation, and it's dropped. It's done. It's hard for me to accept. Okay, what was the next debate?
One of the other ones was like American family and the economy. And again, I think Trump got some points in on this, but the one thing that I have not understood, and the more I think about this, I guess it's going to go back to this, is Trump is normally exceptionally good at bragging on himself and his accomplishments. And I guess at those two debates, there was not a lot of that. And this segment would have been where you needed to say, before the China plague, lowest unemployment rate for this group, stock markets never seen before, high levels, all of these economic things that he has done during his first 3.5 years, that was the time to throw all that out there. he made some good points, but he didn't. And he didn't at the last debate. And even on his stump speeches now at the rallies, he's really not doing that. And I have thought so hard, why is that? And I think it is because he got bruised and beat up so bad after his acceptance speech that's all he did for 2 hours was brag on himself. That's the only logical conclusion I can come up with.
I would agree with that. And there's so many things he could talk about in the economy. I think maybe some of us have forgotten it was on fire. And from a small business perspective, it was amazing. And Joe keeps beating up on, well, Trump's just protecting those in the stock market. And I keep hearing this bounce in there.
False.
And think about it. Even if what's wrong with protecting almost everybody that's in a 401k or some type of retirement plan? Guess what it's tied to? The stock market. Do I own a lot of stock? Absolutely not. But does that mean that I don't have a retirement system from when I was teaching that is affected by that? I don't know how that doesn't come into play. You just keep saying, well, we're just making more billions for the billionaires that own stock. Well, the majority of the people in the U.S. indirectly are tied to that stock market. I'm not saying that they own stock specifically, but their retirement plans are tied to it. And that's something that needs to be brought out. And if this Chinese virus didn't come in, do you realize this wouldn't even be an election? I mean, we'd have an election.
It was over.
We would formally go through the procedure, but I don't know that anybody would even want to run against him.
No, if this wouldn't have happened, this still would be toast. But again, that's not the cards that we were dealt. And then Biden tries to tell people that he's not going to raise taxes on anybody that makes below $400K a year. Okay, I'm not saying that the tax increases that he is proposing, that is not true. What he is failing to tell the American public or remind them of is that he has promised continuously and multiple thousand times that on day one, he is going to take out all of the Trump tax cuts. So yes, that will raise taxes on every American in this country. And you need to remember that, people.
I think it's been very well disguised.
Because his tax plan, what he's going to continue, the part he's going to raise taxes on again is that part. But the fact that he has said on day one he is taking out all the Trump tax decreases, that will raise taxes on every American here. And why the people from the Trump campaign cannot figure out how to get that out there and on the minds of the American people is beyond me.
I think because I think it's hard. There's so many things they have to get out there that are issues. And I agree with you. You don't hear that whatsoever. And it's shocking to me. It just overwhelms me. And then you look at the polls. And again, you and I are not big poll fans. But you look at the polls, and there's many polls that think that Joe is going to do a better job handling the economy than Trump. How is this possible?
You say those polls exist. I have not seen them.
No, I mean, it wasn't, but within a few points. But even it shouldn't even be. It should be 90-10, or there shouldn't even be a number.
That's the deal right there. I will say that whoever is in charge of putting the words into little Biden's head, they're doing a good job disguising that part, because the fact that he has said on day one he's getting rid of all of the Trump's tax cuts, that there says it all, that taxes on the overwhelming amount of Americans will be raised. And then if he takes, Trump slashed business restrictions. Just shredded them. If he puts those back in, Lord, and now this $15 minimum wage, small businesses aren't going to be able to afford that.
No, and Joe comes out and says a raise in minimum wage has never hurt a small business. How is this even plausible? How can he even say that?
That part,
It's just simple math. If we have more expenses on employees, we have to cut back somewhere. And what happens if we raise the wages on the employees? You're going to probably eliminate a couple employees to make sure that you still stay profitable if possible.
On that area right there, I do not understand how if you're going to be the leader of America, you need to realize that even within states, there are different areas of economic growth, depression. You just can't blanket things for everyone and think it's going to work for everybody.
But think about $15 an hour doesn't even get you close to surviving in some places. Other places, yeah, you're probably okay. I'm not saying that that's a good living by any means, but I think in a capitalist society, we really need to let that kind of dictate, the supply and demand dictate where those wages are. That's the only way it works.
Some of his policies just baffle me, but I thought Trump, in terms of the American family and the economy, I think did well. Another one of the topics, and probably where I thought he did exceptionally well, where I was surprised, was they talked about race. And I thought Trump really had some very valid points, some great moments, and I don't think Biden did much here.
No, I think Trump just stated the facts. Here's what he's done, and it's good. It was working.
Yeah,
it was not giving a handout, but rather a hand up to let's engage, let's give more opportunity and let people help themselves.
He has done great things in terms of securing funding for Black colleges, criminal justice reform, all of these other things that I don't know if he gets a lot of credit for, but he has really helped, especially the Black communities in a lot of ways. And it's starting to resonate, I think, a little bit, because a new poll came out that Trump got 8% of the Black vote in the 2016 election. There was a poll that in 2 of the critical swing states, he was up over 40%. And again, I have not...
Are you sure of this one?
Yes. It was on Hannity. Hello?
If that's the case, that swing state it's over. It's checked off on the Trump bandwagon.
And it's not just in the Black community. It's also the Hispanic community is overwhelmingly for Trump now, where last time they were just kind of not sure.
No, I think that shift is strong. And you know what? I wish we had more time, because I think that wave through the Hispanic Latino community it's really, really going towards Trump. And I hope it's swung far enough already.
But those things there, and like this one guy said, they were talking about Pennsylvania, and I guess we can go into this later when we get more into the electoral map and all this other stuff. Talking about Pennsylvania, that if Trump just increases his percentages amongst minorities a couple of points in the metropolitan or suburban areas of Philadelphia and around there, then he's going to win that state. And so I know Black men are supporting him a lot more. There's evidence of that. Hispanic, Latino community. So I think he's made some headway there. And so we'll see. But his performance in terms of the race deal, I thought he did excellent job. He stated what he's done, what he wanted to do. And I can't remember one single solitary thing that Biden said during any of that made... I don't even remember what he talked about, to be honest.
He talked about he called Trump Abraham Lincoln. What else? Did he
that's
do?
right.
Yeah, that didn't work out so well.
Abe Lincoln. I did forget about that. Yep.
But
Abe
no,
Lincoln.
he didn't make any solid points. And there's one other thing on the family I wanted to rewind on just briefly. Do you remember Joe's, and not just in the debate, but in general, he keeps coming out and saying this election is about the character of our country. I agree. It is about character, but there's a big misconception out there between which one has more character between the Trump and the Biden family. And that corrupt-ass Biden family, with everything that's come out, he's been corrupt as long as he's been in office, holding a public office.
And again, this is something that I don't think the Trump campaign has focused on enough. And I will solely put this blame on Trump because of his ego. It is plain and simple fact that the Trump family has lost millions of dollars in income since he's ran and became president, and the Joe Biden family has increased their income by millions and millions of dollars since he's been in politics. So there's your character debate right there, America.
No, right there. And that's put so clearly. And have you heard that anywhere, Ryan? Have you heard it?
No, because I'm the only one that says
I've
it.
not heard anybody state it. Nobody. But why won't you hear it from Tucker or Hannity or somebody?
Because I'm a genius.
You have genius qualities, but we've had this discussion, and you do lack in other areas where you overcompensate in some.
But no, I think the reason the Trump campaign doesn't put it out is because Donald doesn't want people to know he's lost money. I mean, I do think his ego is
just look at the salary that Joe has made for his 47 years, and look at the houses, look at his net worth. The math does not add up. Right. I'm not even. Yeah, I don't even know if we can go down that road. And it's amazing to me.
Another thing about character, Donald Trump has not taken a paycheck all 4 years in office. I think that is one of the most admirable things any president has ever done, and they don't even focus on that anymore.
No, it's not even mentioned anymore. What about one of the biggest statements that Trump made? Joe, because of you and Barack Obama, that's why I ran. Yeah, you are the reason I ran for president. If you were doing well, I wouldn't have ran. I thought that I loved it.
And the best thing that came out of the debate for me, not just that night, but also he is incorporating this in these rallies that he's doing, and it was towards the end, was just that Trump is they elected an outsider to become president, and he is still the outsider. He has accomplished more in 47 months than Joe has in 47 years. Joe is all talk and no action. And just like you said, Trump stated, I ran because of you and Barack Obama. If y'all had been doing a good job, I would have never run.
And I believe that to be very honest.
Oh, very absolutely. Accurate. Yeah. I talked about this a lot on my Facebook in 2016. There are basically only 3 reasons why anybody would ever want to run for president, because it is not a fun job. And that is money, power, and fame. Trump had all of those. Lots of it in all of those before he ever ran. He ran for president because he knew that America was in a real pickle, and he genuinely and honestly thought that he could help. And he did, until China sent us.
And I believe that to be a fact. No question.
Yeah. And so
now, does he enjoy that title of president? Yeah, absolutely. Does it stroke his ego? Absolutely. Does he put out some tweets that we maybe wish he wouldn't? Does he say some things we maybe wish we wouldn't? And that's the elephant in the room. That there's things that are unappealing personally, but when you stop and think about what he's sacrificed, what he's done, what his policies have done for our country, I don't care what he says.
People can say they don't like his Twitter, they don't like his demeanor, and all this other stuff. Okay, and I guess this is why I kind of identify with him as much as I do. Whatever he thinks, he just states it.
He does that. He does that very well.
Those other people, they have just as bad thoughts and moments and all this other shit, but they do it behind closed doors and don't put themselves out there. So, again, when we're going to this character debate, I am somebody that whatever I think, I'm just going to say it. And yeah, a lot of people don't like that.
And it does cause me some distress sometimes.
Exactly. And a lot of people don't like it, and that is fine. But as far as character, I would much rather go with the person that no matter what the situation is, you know what they're thinking and what they're going to do, compared to the guy that's huddled up in the back room calling Americans all this other shit and saying all this stupid shit, but you don't know about it. I'd rather go with the guy that I know exactly what's on his mind.
And we don't know what's on Joe's mind when he's locked down in that basement. And I don't think you could call
mind.
You could call his handlers brilliant for doing this to get him to where he is and making it a close race. But I don't think it was even a master plan. I think they're doing it because they're scared to death of what he's going to say or what he isn't going to say. So I don't think there's any plan. I think the dumbasses just fell into it.
No, I don't think they're brilliant because they didn't know that Rona was going to hit. If Rona wanted to hit, they wouldn't have had this luxury. They can say he's at home, whatever now, because he's trying to be responsible and following signs. If Rona wouldn't have hit, there would have been no excuse for him not to be out there making a buffoon of himself every day on the campaign trail.
And we haven't talked.
No, I don't think they're brilliant. It is literally a stroke of luck.
Yep. No, absolutely. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but the big statement of the debate, when Trump allowed Sleepy Joe to continue, confused Joe to continue to talk a little bit, what did he drop on us?
Oh, the oil.
Oh, Texans loved it. The Texans loved it, didn't they?
Oh, I'm shocked. Oh, my. I mean.
But that was exactly what needed to happen. It was perfect. Shocked the moderator. Shocked me.
But
couldn't believe it.
The one thing that makes, and again, yes, he said he was going to transition out of the oil industry, which that is probably as bad as Hillary saying that Trump supporters were a basket of deplorables. I mean, literally, that's probably
comparable.
Very, very close. And definitely his biggest what the fuck moment of the campaign so far. But right before that, seconds before that, this is what just proves to me that the man has no recollection of what he says or what he does. Because he went into this tirade that said he never said he was going to ban fracking.
Correct.
He said he was going to ban fracking at more times
they have it on video at
and
least
he said, put the video up on your website. Dude,
and
how
it was
stupid
up before
are you?
It was on Facebook before the debate was over.
Probably 30 seconds before he got to the transitioning the oil statement, they were already posting it on Trump's Facebook.
So I don't know if he doesn't remember that or he just thinks he can get. I'm puzzled. I don't understand the logic.
I don't think he knows because literally, if you knew you had flip-flopped on the issue, you might state, I am not against banning fracking. You would not go into that tirade and say, I never said that. And he says, it's on tape, Joe. Put it up on your website. He doesn't remember.
Oh my! If he really doesn't remember that, his cognitive abilities are worse than I even think they are.
If he does remember and he went that firm on it and wanted to be made a fool of that bad, then he's got major issues.
Either direction, it doesn't lead to a good.
Right. Either way, this is not good. Not good.
No. Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
I think Trump firmly won this debate. He was calm. He was cool. He was collected. I thought it was his best debate performance. Other than, I really thought the first debate of the Republican primaries, he was just on fire. But I think this one might even been better. It was definitely his best presidential debate in the general election. But I thought he did a great job. I don't think Joe did much. And again, you and your polls that you liked so much, there was not a poll that I saw that didn't, even CNN, that didn't have Trump winning by at least a couple of points. Now, there were some polls that had him winning like 82% and stuff like that. So definitely was the winner. But
I think it's allowed. I think that the first debate, including myself, really toned down the momentum a little bit. I had to stop and think about the long-term ramifications if Trump didn't win. But it was hard for me to stomach the first debate from either one of them, but Trump as well. And in this one, very presidential, very calm, very pointed in terms of what he was trying to accomplish. Those things were good. And I think if we could just come out and make it very, very clear, and I think he did it to a certain degree, but there's so many issues we can talk about. Let's make it simplify it. The issue of taxes, border control, defunding the police, private health care, stacking the Supreme Court, handouts versus hand-ups, extreme left takeover versus what to the point where we've never seen it in this country. Those are all of the things that are on the line. And before we dive into the Electoral College, because I love looking at the numbers and the figures, and I've dove into it pretty hard, Ryan. I know you're excited about it.
The most.
This election, and Ryan and I have said it so many times, and Ryan says he's tired of hearing this on Fox. It's going to impact more than 4 years. period. And Ryan and I, what I'm going to say here, we see it, we live it, we feel it. We're probably too immersed in it. It affects our daily mood, basically. But if the Democrats take the White House, they will likely take the majority in the Senate. They will hold the majority in the House of Representatives. Then, with court stacking, they will control the Supreme Court. When they control the House, the Senate, the White House, and the Supreme Court, this then allows them to change the rules as they go, push as far left of a radical agenda without any accountability. Between changing the rules and handouts, this then keeps them in power for eternity. If they have over 50% of the population on some form of handout through a socialistic plan, they don't have any choice but to continue to vote for them because that is their income. That is how they're surviving. They will also come in and they can eliminate the Electoral College if they take control of everything. They can bring in Puerto Rico and D.C. into the Senate. All of a sudden, that gives them a stronger majority. It's incredible. So if they take control, stack the court, the Supreme Court's in their favor. The Senate will likely follow whatever happens in the White House. The House of Representatives, it's not going to flip to the Republicans. So it's going to be a matter. We can change all the rules, things that you never even dreamed of, and I'm afraid those crazy bastards will do it.
Do you feel better now?
A little. Okay. I might have missed something.
Everything that you said, Dale, are possibilities. Yes, absolutely.
Am I going too negative? I think they'll do it.
No.
It scares me to death.
Okay, I'm with you. And yes, I think if they can, they will. But again, I'm going to state this, and I'm going to say it again. Some of those things require a change in the Constitution.
If they have all those levels, they can change damn near anything they want. Unchecked.
There are different processes in terms of changing the Constitution. It's not just a Senate Congress vote now.
Agreed. You bring the Supreme Court in, you bring different percentages in. Yeah, I get it. But I think that they would be at a level and a craziness level like we've never seen before. And I'm afraid if you stack the Supreme Court, you control the Senate and the House. And yeah, I don't know. It's a very gray area. And my fear is they're going to take that gray section, run with it. And when they control all segments of government, who's going to challenge it? How can you challenge it? It's kind of unchecked. I agree with you. That's going extreme in what I'm saying. But I do believe it to be possible. And I do believe the extreme left, AOC, Harris, I believe that is their goal, their wish to do. And I don't know when it steps into that gray constitutional area where there isn't maybe an absolute black and white, there's nobody on the other side that has any power to keep it in check.
Again, I think they would want to do all of that. When you are talking about changing the Constitution, adding new states, changing the number on the Supreme Court.
There's no question. They can stack the Supreme Court if they control the Senate and the White House. They can do it. I'm not saying they should, but they can.
Again,
it's legal. They
states, changing the Constitution.
They can do those things.
No, sir, they can't.
Yes. Are you trying to tell me they can't stack the Supreme Court?
I didn't say that. I said the other stuff you were talking about.
That they can't bring Puerto Rico and D.C. in?
That is changing the Constitution now.
I'm telling you that can be done.
Ratifying states is a constitutional thing, son.
You know, we need to take us some government classes so we're better versed on what can and can't be done. But I'm fearful. I hope I'm wrong. I really, really hope I'm wrong. With that, let's think more. Let's think more positive. You tell me about all the momentum and all the Trump size and all those things.
Lord.
And I love those things, but I want tangible facts. I want the Electoral College votes. I want you to tell me how we get there.
Well, first off, since the debate and all this, there's no doubt, and again, Dale's polls that he likes so much, they were proven wrong in 2016. I don't even listen to these stupid things because, again, think about who does the polls. Can we just put this out there? Can we think about who conducts the polls? Who conducts the polls, Dale? Liberals.
To me, mostly liberals. 90%.
Yes. And liberals are the media. Media is the liberals.
Yes, but is it in their advantage? I mean, I would think that if they're behind by a little bit, that would rally their support to get out and vote. So I don't know that them rigging the polls helps them long term.
Well, you would have to have intelligence to figure that out, and they don't.
I do believe they think that it does. So we can just go with that.
So I don't put a lot of stock in there. What I said when Hillary was 14 points ahead and 18 points ahead and all this back in 2016, these people will come out in the tens of thousands, stand in lines, sleep overnight, just to hear and see President Trump talk. Okay, forward that to now. We're in the middle of a pandemic, which I love it every time they bring that up too. These rallies...
As if anybody has control over it.
Right. These rallies are now having to be outside, pretty much, because if they're not, then Trump will get raked over the coals for having super spreader events, etc. And they're showing up in bigger numbers than they were 4 years ago. That has to say something.
Agreed.
Also, there's this little thing that if you do research and facts, there is no doubt in the critical swing states that Republicans have registered more voters than the Democrats have, and it's in considerable margins. Like, for example, in Florida, they have registered 387,000 more Republicans than the Democrats had since the 2016 election.
So assumably, if a lot of them that were voting for Trump before continue, let's say he loses a few of them, that hopefully makes up that gap. If he can keep the support he originally had, plus that, we're in great shape.
But also, and I don't remember the exact figures. I know that's true in Michigan. It's the same thing. They've registered more Republicans. North Carolina, all these things. And so that's kind of the trend. Now, does that mean everybody goes out and votes? No. Does that mean they all go vote on Trump? But that's getting overlooked. That's not getting talked about because that would be negative towards them. I do know that, again, I shouldn't watch the news as much as I do. And after the election is over, if we have a clear and concise winner, so I will not watch it as much there for a little bit. But you can see even the Democrat pundits and other people are now saying that they are a little apprehensive that maybe this push for mail-in ballots and all this other stuff that the Democrats had might backfire on them because they have made this push. Don't get out. It's a pandemic. Don't go vote. Mail in your ballots. Well, now that early voting has started, the early voters are all Republicans, and it's not looking real good there in a lot of areas. But if the general consensus is that Trump will hold Ohio, hold Iowa, hold a lot of states that he had, Biden will keep the blue states or whatever, but it comes down to basically 6 states. Now, I have some issues with all this. Again, I think Arizona is something that needs to be watched. I think there's some traction in Nevada because Trump keeps going back there. That was the state he didn't win. He put out a tweet this morning that was weird. He said, New York, vote for Trump. What the hell do you have to lose? And there's been a little talk about New York. Now, I don't see how that's possible, but the 6 states that are supposedly what's going to decide the election are Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. That's what the general consensus and logic are. If he loses Florida, it is going to be the biggest disappointment in the history of the world because even the Democrats this morning are saying that as they study the early voting numbers, that they think that Trump will win Florida. North Carolina, again, I think that is looking good. Joe must think something can happen in Georgia. And again, Dale's polls, they say it's neck and neck because he's going to the state of Georgia today. And I know that
And where is Camel Toe going? She's coming to visit you in Texas, Ryan.
She's going to Houston on Friday.
Yes. How is that even? What motivation behind that?
I don't know what.
I can tell you what it is. It's in the polls that we don't really like, it's relatively close in Texas on the polls. I'm not saying that it's going to turn out that way, and that'll be a great, I guess, example to see just how far off they are, because I think in the state of Texas, the polls are going to be further off maybe than any other state.
Well, she can come down here. She probably, I told you, if she wasn't going to Dallas, Houston, or Austin, she wasn't going to make it out alive. But you notice they didn't send Mr. Transitioning the oil industry out down here himself. But
I think what all she's going to do is get out Trump's vote down there. I think she's going to piss people off.
And so those are the 6 states. Karl Rove says that the way it looks right now, Trump keeps Florida, Georgia, and North Carolina. If he does that, he has to win one of those other 3 to secure the presidency. He had 3 rallies in Pennsylvania yesterday. Pennsylvania is the fracking capital of the United States, I think, pretty much. And so they are really driving home the Joe's banning fracking there. I think he only won Pennsylvania by like 10,000 votes last year.
It was tight.
I mean, it was
really
razor
tight.
thin. And so, or last election cycle, not last year, excuse me. And so I don't know. Wisconsin, Michigan, I would think if you were from the state of Michigan and you had dealt with that bitch Gretchen, and I did say Gretchen, not Gretchen, as your governor, then you could not even consider voting any other way but Republican. But I don't know.
You would think that, but it's. I mean, you bring up some of these states, and again, I'm using real clear politics, so an average of the polls, and we know they're off. It's a matter of how far they're off, and I've tried to go back and look at 2016 on individual states to see how far off the polls are, and just roughly, and it depends which polls you look at. But you've got some of these battleground states that you're talking about, Ryan. You're assuming he's going to hold some of these states like Arizona. You're going to obviously he needs to hold Florida, but there's anywhere I'm going to give him, if he's within 3%, I'm going to give that to Trump. Even though Biden's up by 3% in the polls, I can safely say that there's a high chance that Trump's going to win that because I think the polls are off that much. However, when we jump into Pennsylvania, we're about 5%, Michigan 7.5%, 9% in Wisconsin. When we get to 7 and above, I start to get nervous because in 2016, the pollsters state by state were off anywhere from 3% to I think 12, 13%. So it's going to fall in there somewhere. I give him those states that are 3% and less, maybe even 5% and less difference between Biden and Trump. But when we start getting to 7, 8, and 9, that's where I get nervous. And there's some of them in that battleground states that are right there. You can tell me about the momentum and support that Trump's getting from all the rallies and what he's doing. And maybe that's enough getting out the vote, that enthusiasm, because Sleepy Joe has 0. But I never underestimate the enthusiasm of the anti-Trump population to get out there and vote. So I'm nervous. I love Karl Rove's analysis of it, but to me, if we look at some of the things just from the start, take the big 3 states, California, New York, and Illinois. There's 104 electoral votes, and we have to get to 270 for Biden. You throw in Washington, Oregon, Vermont, Hawaii, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, D.C., and Maine, you're up to 178. Throw in the leaning states, Colorado, New Mexico, and Virginia, Biden's already at 192. There are very few, looking at the Real Clear Politics and all the other polls out there, and again, I don't believe them, but there are none of them that as of today put Trump over 200 electoral votes. Guess what? He had less than that in 2016. So I think it's possible, but it concerns me. Just from the very beginning, it's a battle every year or every election for the Republicans because you've got such a strong number of electoral votes coming from those absolute Democrat states that you just can't flip. Frustrating.
Well, California might flip. They just had like a 5,000 unsanctioned Trump rally in the middle of downtown Beverly Hills yesterday.
I love it.
It's not going to flip, but I do think that is hilarious that Trump was not there, and in the middle of Beverly Hills, they had 5,000 people down there having a Trump rally.
And Disneyland, Disney World, whichever one is there, Disneyland, is suing the state of California. That's a good sign.
I did not know that.
Yeah, they're not happy about being shut down still, and I'm assuming because they're just about to go bankrupt in that particular park, so that they are filing a lawsuit against the state of California, along with a lot of other people. It's insane, absolutely insane. And you and I get a chance, and you more than I, to travel throughout the country, and it is really really interesting how differently COVID is being received in different states and different regions within states. And I don't think a Sleepy Joe or some of our politicians, the governor of California, I don't think they realize life is really going on in other states, and it's fine. It's working. I don't get it.
Again, and I stated this at the beginning, I think your whole response to Rona, the majority of it is influenced by how it has affected you, depending on if you had a family member that's sick or died, or if you lost your job. I think that's the big deal. And I think there's ways that it can be influenced good and bad for either candidate. But I think this is one of those things that it really comes down to an individual's personal experience and what they've gone through because of the COVID-19 crisis. And there's no way to pull that. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's impossible.
There's no way
Absolutely
to pull that.
Impossible. So I don't know where it's going to play out come election day, Ryan, but it's got me nervous. I hope that the enthusiasm, I hope everything we're seeing across the countryside, I hope all those things come true. From the electoral college standpoint, we have to hold Arizona, we have to hold Florida, we have to take Pennsylvania, and then I think if we can reel in one of those, Wisconsin, Michigan, Minnesota, I think we're okay. But there's a lot of different directions to go, and it makes me nervous. I'm not sleeping well.
Well, you don't ever sleep well, so you'll be fine. But again, I don't know what's going to happen. The only things that I can see and I can forecast are the same kind of stuff that I looked at the last time. I think the momentum's on his side. I think the fact that he is out there actually asking Americans to vote for him compared to Joe, who is not. And that is the thing that just fucking irritates me the most. Like,
he doesn't even have to ask for the vote. The media takes care of it.
That this man wants to be the president of the United States of America, and he thinks he can sit his senile old ass down in his basement or in his mansion there in Delaware and not have to go out there and work for it, and he's just going to be handed the election. Now that really, 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 really irritates me to no end.
It should.
And that will be the thing if he wins. That I'll never get over that fact, because he did not work for it.
He did nothing.
If you want to be president, you got to work for it, in my opinion.
Amen. And the people he surrounds himself with, if you think that Joe Biden's anywhere near moderate, when you've got Camel Toe as a running mate, you have AOC's Green Deal that we based his environmental policy off of. You visit with Bernie Sanders and allow him to influence your policy to a great degree. That is so far from moderate that you're really not looking close enough if you think that we're not going to go to the extreme left with a Biden-Harris presidency.
So we'll know in 7 days, and I'm sure no matter what happens with the election, we'll have another one of these lovely little
I hope our next one is a celebration, excitement. I
do think it. I do have to share this with you, Dale, and this would be a good way to close. So, with the election getting closer, I'm trying to be tolerant on Facebook and not, because I know I trigger people, but I've had a few Facebook posts the last couple of days, and so I've had all these messages and snaps. Still loves my snaps, but these people want me to go live on election night, and I'm going to tell people: A, number one, that's not going to happen. B, number two, nobody needs that, because my own parents, who live on the same estate as I do, literally, we live. I can stand out my front door, and because I'm very, very loud, I can yell when one of them's outside in the garage, and they won't hear what I'm saying, but they'll know that I'm yelling. Those people are traveling over 1,500 miles to get away from me on election day. So, I don't think you people understand what will happen up here on the election, but it is nothing that nobody needs to see live.
Everyone, be safe. Get out and vote. Take everybody with you that you can to go vote. I look forward to our next Beyond the Circus, Ryan, because we're going to be celebrating.
Hopefully.